Today I'm going to be unboxing the Tank 3 by FiFine. This is a USB and XLR dynamic microphone that seems to be catered towards gaming or podcasting or any sort of content creator situations. They did send this to me, full disclosure, but they did not pay me anything or compensate me in any way. They just wanted me to check it out on the channel and share it with you all. Another thing I wanted to do in this video is compare it to the classic, the Shure SM7B, because this is kind of an industry standard for these similar types of applications. And I thought this would be a great comparison to see kind of where the Tank 3 sits in terms of sound quality and features and all of that kind of thing. So be sure to stay tuned near the end because I will be doing a sound comparison between these two. But for now, let's get this opened up. All right, we've got the AmpliTank user guide. I'm very curious. Oh, you can use it with PS5. That's cool. I'm very curious what all it can do because obviously the Shure SM7B, you just plug an XLR in and that's it. This has a lot of other things going on. All right, so we've got, oop, I already pulled the cap off. This came with a USB-C to USB-A connector. Great, always need these, and I'm sure that's what you need to connect the mic. So we'll get that out of the way. And here is the mic itself. Honestly, it feels more solid than I thought it would. Honestly, I'm a purist and I'm a bit of a stickler as far as quality of gear, and so if it's not like a name brand, I'm automatically a little skeptical, but this feels really solid. You've got looks like a push to talk or mute button up at the top, and then you have a mic level and a headphone level. And then on the back here, you have your USB-C, your headphone, and your XLR. So I want to get it plugged in and see what it sounds like. And is that all that's in the box? Hold on. Hold on. That's all that's in the box. Okay. I'm going to read the manual a little bit. I might skip through this or I might just leave it on there. I'm curious what all applications this can be used for and also what kind of ways you can set this up and configure it. Mute button. Okay, so I believe this is the mute button there. That's the capsule. Great. The gain knob. So this mic looking thing is the gain knob. This is the headphone knob. Great. Thumb screw to adjust mic angle. Okay, that's here, I thought, but maybe. Oh, yeah, you can. Oh, you can tighten that. That's really nice. And now I can't untighten it. Okay. So depending on how loose or tight you want this, you can clamp it down and it's a little more snug. I like that because I hate the mic drift thing, you know, when it like is kind of loose and drifts around. Okay, so you could do USB port connection, where you plug it directly into your computer and use it as an audio device. You know what? Let's go ahead and first thing, just get this connected to my computer and use it as a basic, like most simple setup. So this is a very small complaint, but I'm spoiled to the Shure because it has the kind of the twist here. So if you want to just hold it still and twist it into place, you can. This one, it looks like we're going to have to physically spin the mic. That's just me being nitpicky. Also, the arm feels a little lower quality than the microphone itself. Again, not a huge deal. It's just something I noticed. All right, so let's get this plugged in. Just get that in there. It's got to go somewhere in here. I don't need an eye lock right now. Got some lights? We got some lights. Cool. Nice, it turns red when you mute it, turns green when it's on. I love that. Logic already popped up and said, do you want to use the audio device FiFine microphone? And I do want to use it. So let's open up a new thing here, get an audio track. Input is 1. Check. And it works. Look at that. I love things that just plug in and work. Huge bonus points for that. Not even bonus points. That's kind of a minimum requirement. I've definitely returned gear in the past because it didn't work immediately when I plugged it in. And I know that sounds a little like snarky or pretentious or whatever, but I think if some companies can do it where it just plugs in and works, especially MIDI keyboards, then I feel like everything should be able to do that. Anyway, let's see here. Did we do input and output? We did. So let me get some headphones. Check, check. Okay, so the mic has its own... Check. Hey, check, check, check. The mic has its own built-in monitoring, which that's nice. So you don't need to use the monitoring within your DAW. Let me go ahead and hit record while I'm doing this so we can just all hear this mic. Now I am speaking through the Tank 3 microphone, and it sounds pretty good. I definitely need to listen back when it's not in my heads because I'm hearing my own voice as I'm talking, but that is great. I'm going to hit mute. And then you turn it back on and you can hear stuff. So that is great. I actually really like having that right there, especially, I don't know, that's just handy. That's really nice to have. And it doesn't feel cheap. It's a little wobbly, but I like how it feels when you press it. Okay, that's pretty good. I feel like, no, I'm getting good gain levels. I was going to say I'm at about 75% on the gain. Here's all the way up. But I do like even all the way up, there's no noise floor and no hiss or anything like that. Granted, and it could be the headphones I'm using, I feel like I had to crank it all the way up to be able to hear myself. So I'm curious. Okay, I think the headphone amp built into this is not the most high-powered thing, but let me check the ohms on my headphones. Oh yeah, these are 250 ohms. That's not a fair shot for the mic. Hold on one second. That's better. It's still not super loud. And I mean, anything below half, I can't really hear it all. I wish the headphone jack had a little more power to it, a little more juice, because I do have it turned all the way up. But I can get past that. You know, you could always use your own audio device, your own headphone amp. There's lots of solutions there, but I do think it's nice. I'd rather have it than not have it in this instance, even if it's not the most high-powered thing. It's all bus powered as well, so it's like it can't be like crazy juiced. Okay, let's see. Hold on. Okay. Manual might be saving us here. Output settings. So I think well, I'm within Logic, so that doesn't necessarily make sense either. Let me just go look at audio though. Input volume, input volume, input volume, input volume. Oh, interesting. I don't know what to do about that. Output volume is at max. But if I switch it to FiFine, check. Weird, so there is a little bit more juice. So that's interesting to note that there's more headroom in the max settings. If you're using PC, maybe that won't be a thing for you, but that is an interesting thing to note. As far as the sound, I think it does sound very good. Balanced, not too boomy. I've had a few people comment on my videos and either tell me to back up from the mic or roll off some low end or all of those wonderful things because my voice is usually boomy in these types of mics, and this does not feel as boomy as the Shure SM7B. So you're welcome, those of you who have commented about my vocal quality on my videos. This actually might help because it's not as boomy. I wish there was a way to turn off input monitoring on the mic. Like in the event I wanted to monitor from Logic, if I turn this on, then we're getting the doubling thing, and I don't know a way to turn that off within the mic. Maybe there's not an option for that. It's just a little more simple. So if you've used this mic or know about that, let me know, because I'd be curious there. But let's go ahead and I'm going to switch this over to my recorder, and we'll do some A/B comparison between the Shure SM7B and this microphone. I'm going to now sound test both these microphones. Currently, I'm speaking into the FiFine Tank3 microphone. Now I am sound testing in the other microphone, which is the Shure SM7B. I'm about 2 to 3 inches away from both microphones. So let's go to the other one and hear the difference. Right off the top of my head, this one feels like it has less low end and a little more high end presence compared to the Shure SM7B, which has kind of that fuller, thicker sound. Not to say one is better or worse than the other. It's just the character that these microphones have. Moving back to the Tank 3, I definitely hear more presence on the top end with this mic. Let me turn up my thing a little more. I definitely hear more presence on the top end with this mic. And for those of you that might have a lower bassy voice, I'm not sure if the Shure SM7B is as good for that, because this has more of that fullness and richness, whereas this almost feels flatter, or almost if it has a bump in the high mid somewhere. It is important to note that none of these controls work when you're using XLR mode. It's just a regular mic, just like the Shure SM7B is a regular mic at that point. The only differences other than that is the Shure SM7B has the dip switches on the back to do the bump and the roll off, and I don't think I'm doing any of that. No, completely flat on the Shure SM7B. This is what the Shure SM7B sounds like about 6 inches away. Here is the FiFine Tank3 microphone from about 6 inches away. So it feels like the low end rolls off quicker as you back up on the Tank3, whereas on the Shure SM7B, it still feels fuller at a further distance. That's a little bit up to taste, you know, what you're going for there. I did do my best to gain stage both of these microphones. They're both hitting around -15 average. And then if I get a little louder, they'll go more towards like -12 or so. Now over to the other mic, I'm talking a little louder. It's peaking around -12. So I did my best to do a completely fair comparison with both of these microphones. Going back to the other one. I don't know necessarily what my preference is here. It's a little hard to tell in the headphones as well, as far as how low end heavy it is. But I will keep comparing these as I talk through kind of the pros and cons of each and what I think you might benefit from buying one versus the other. Back over to the Shure SM7B. This is an industry standard, a staple. It's been around for a long time, so you kind of know what you're getting with the Shure SM7B. That's why I personally got this microphone, because you just plug it in and it works. It's great with off-axis rejection, meaning it isolates your voice very well in sometimes less than ideal recording spaces. The FiFine Tank3, on the other hand, is a newer offering to the market, but it also comes in at a much cheaper price point with a lot more features. So depending on, like, if you're the purist and you want just the classic, like I want the sound of the Shure SM7B, fair enough, you might want this sound. However, if you are open to experimenting, or you have a lower budget, or you don't care about brand and you like how this sounds better, then that could be a great option for you as well. Another obvious benefit of going with the Tank3 over the Shure SM7B is the addition of all the extra I/O and configuration options. You can plug it directly into your computer with the USB-C, and you can also plug your headphones right into it. So this is more than ideal for gamers or people that don't have a serious audio setup. Because with the Shure SM7B, you know, you have to spend $400 or so to get the microphone, and then you need the cable, and then you need the audio interface, and all these other things to make the mic work. Whereas with the Tank3, you just plug it in and it is immediately working. So that is a nice benefit. Plus you get the little light on top, which I am a fan of. And obviously the price point is very different. As I said, the Shure SM7B is $400 and the Tank3 is like $80. I have it pulled up on Amazon on my screen just to check the current price. It is $79.99 right now, which is a fantastic deal. My only couple complaints about this microphone, I'm not in love with this arm, the little boom arm here. It feels not as well made as the rest of the microphone. And I don't like that there's not kind of a spinny contraption on the bottom, you know, that kind of locks you into either having to spin the whole mic to get it to thread, or you have to spin your mic stand, you know, and do that kind of twisty thing. Whereas the Shure SM7B just has the twisty on the bottom, which I really like. Not a huge deal, not a deal breaker, but it is something that I noticed. The other thing I noticed about the Tank3 is it does not have as much headroom on the headphone amp as, say, my SSL12 interface. Granted, I know, you know, this is a high quality audio interface. This is an all-in-one microphone. And so I'm sure there's a lot more to it than just like, you know, this is louder than this, but it is something I noticed. To hear the level I like to hear in these Bare Dynamic 770 headphones, they're the 80 ohm ones, I have to turn the headphone volume on the Tank3 all the way up to get to the same volume I am when I have the SSL12 set at about half. All that to say, it could be more made for gaming headphones that don't need as much power or juice. That could be part of it. I tried it with my 250 ohm headphones and it was not enough volume, but those are really hard to power, even for my SSL12 interface. So it's just something to think about. It's not the loudest headphone amp in the world. And it bothers me a little bit, but I think if I was using this as a microphone with my audio interface, I'm going to monitor through the audio interface anyway. And then if I'm using this just as a standalone, I'm more happy that it has a headphone jack and I don't have to set up a secondary audio device, rather than I am upset that I don't have a ton of volume there, if that makes sense. Just something to note. It's not a ton of volume, but it is a good amount of volume. It's enough. It's just not like a rave in your headphones. Back over to the Shure SM7B, because it's been a minute. I definitely feel the mid-range switch between these two mics. Like I move over and I feel the difference. I'm not sure which I prefer. I've heard this more. This feels like I'm going to dip something out of like 3K. I don't know. Again, this one's boomier, so take it as it is. You know, they're both good sounding microphones and they would both get the job done. I would be curious with the Tank 3 how it does on sources like guitar amps, snare drums, kick drums, percussion, that kind of stuff, because I know the Shure SM7B is a great instrument microphone as well. And so I'd be curious next time I'm in a session, you know, recording some drums or something, to see how the Tank 3 does there. Who is it for specifically and who is it not for? I think, you know, it is great for gamers, podcasters. If you're doing a podcast and you need like 4 mics, like that's ridiculous to get 4 of the SM7B. That'd be like $1,600. But you could grab 4 of these for like $320. That's not bad at all. So definitely something to consider there. The cost is a big factor. You know, I think this is also made for gamers and content creators and people who just need easy plug and play solutions. Again, I love that I just plugged it in and it like worked. No drivers, no software, nothing extra like that. It was just very simple plug and play. Obviously the Shure SM7B is plug and play because it's just plug in, but it doesn't have any of the additional audio interface, headphone jack, that kind of stuff. Who is the Tank 3 maybe not for? Who might be better off considering something else? I think if you are in a pro studio or a pro broadcasting situation and you need to know, like with zero doubt, that the microphone is going to just knock it out of the park every time, I think you'd be better off just getting, you know, the RE20 or the Shure SM7B, because I can't speak to the longevity or the versatility of this microphone yet because I just took it out of the box. But something like that, or if you're just in a situation where the name brand does matter, like you have artists coming into the studio and they're like, I record on the Shure SM7B, they probably wouldn't be thrilled to record on the Tank 3. Again, that's not all artists either. That's just, I know people that are like that, like, oh, let me see your gear list. It's those gear list people, like, let me see the gear list people that would not like this. It sounds fine. It can probably hang, but just something, you know, something to consider. If you have any other questions about this microphone, feel free to let me know in the comments. I can test it on other sources or anything like that you'd like. Also, if you'd like to check out the product, I do have it down in the description, so feel free to go check that out as well. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it was helpful to you, and we'll see you on the next one, maybe, or not.